现在啊，有些女孩的思想太浅薄了。
Nowadays, some girls have such shallow thinking. They feel it's fine not to get married, and some even want to keep the child but ditch the father. Let's put everything else aside for a moment. Do you know what the hardest part of raising a child is? It's not the 10 months of pregnancy. It's not the pain of childbirth. It's not even the stage of breastfeeding or scraping by day to day. The hardest part is the influence of family and society on shaping that child. Your own understanding of the world is already immature, and now you're adding a clueless kid into the mix. What can you possibly teach them? What you raise will end up being a generation of people who can't handle intimate relationships or navigate complex social dynamics. Worse yet, in the future, they might even pass the negative effects of their stunted personality right back to you. That's what you should really be thinking about.
我在抖音上挑战100天嫁出去。
These past few days, I've been going on blind dates. And I feel like these people are so strange. Can I really get married? I feel like even when I hit menopause, no one will want me. Unless I just grab some random guy off the street and get a marriage certificate. But finding someone I actually like? That's so hard. The first guy I chatted with, his photos looked so good. We added each other on WeChat and talked for a few days. Then this dude suddenly goes, "If we hit it off on this blind date, I'll just move in with you." What the heck? Straight up trying to shack up with me? I can't handle that. I think there should be some boundaries with this stuff, right? So I turned him down. After I rejected him, he said, "Then there's no point in meeting." Then the second guy, we hadn't even talked much yet. But when he found out I was going on another blind date, he changed his WeChat name to Wounded Heart right away. The next day, when I chatted with him, I saw he'd changed it again to Painful Pain. I asked, "Why do you keep changing your WeChat name?" He said, "I know you're going on another date." I feel awful. I said, "Then let's meet up." He shot back, "What, am I your backup plan? You only come to me when the others don't work out." This guy totally saw through my thoughts. So, in the end, I deleted him too. Then the third guy, we finally met, and his conditions seemed decent. The first day, we chatted really well. But the second and third days? He just ghosted me. It's starting to drag my mood down more and more. It's so frustrating. Where have all the good men in the world gone?
普通男生们哈，在此奉劝你们不要去追求所谓的剩女。
Hey, ordinary guys, a piece of advice for you here. Don't go chasing after so-called leftover women. There's a specific reason these women end up left behind. They often come equipped with 3 major traits. First, they have high expectations but low qualifications. For instance, they might earn just $3,000 a month themselves, yet demand a guy who makes $30,000. These unrealistic standards make them hit wall after wall in the dating game. Second, they've got sharp tongues and refuse to back down. They don't have the life of a princess, yet somehow catch the princess disease. When there's a disagreement, they never yield, showing off their selfish nature. Even as they get older, their standards for a partner don't budge an inch, as if marriage has nothing to do with them. Third, they're selfish even toward themselves. If someone can't even be generous with themselves, who dare take them on?
你都30几了，还只有这种认知，你是怎么敢对别人挑三拣四的？
You're in your 30s, and this is still all you figured out? How do you have the nerve to be so picky about others? Don't you know that scammers love targeting older women with your kind of mindset?
My own conditions aren't bad, so what's wrong with having some standards? Besides, last time I came to you, you didn't talk like this. What? Now that you've roped me in, you're just going to ignore me.
Have I not been looking out for you? It's you who keeps messing things up. You're a public school teacher in the city center. Sure, your education and income are decent, and your job is respectable and stable. But your family background? Pretty average. Your parents are just ordinary workers. Now this guy, he's from a big city, a civil servant with a better workplace than yours, right? His parents are well off, and his family outranks yours, doesn't it? He's got a house, a car, no loans. His finances are better than yours, right? Plus, he's an only child with more connections and resources than you, isn't he? He checks every single one of your boxes.
At first, I did think he was pretty decent. But after spending time with him, I just didn't feel anything.
What kind of feeling are you looking for? He was messaging you every day, checking in on you, taking you out for delicious meals and fun activities. How could you say you didn't feel anything then?
When we hung out, it was actually pretty fun. I'll admit, he was a fairly humorous blind date.
Then why did you reject him when he confessed his feelings?
I didn't reject him, exactly. I just thought he looked too ordinary, and his height didn't meet my expectations. I only said I'd think about it some more. Who knew he'd start distancing himself from me after that?
If you're not going to date him, of course he's not going to waste his time on you. And didn't you end up dating someone else later? I saw your social media post. Your classmate introduced you to a guy you seemed pretty happy with.
Because he's handsome, tall and strong, and his family's in business. They've got several properties, and he studied abroad. He's romantic and has a real sense of ceremony.
So, you'd only known him for a week, barely got to know him, and you jumped into a relationship, right? If I remember correctly, didn't you date him for almost a year, and still no progress toward marriage?
We broke up. A few months in, he got really distant. And he never once talked about marriage with me. I even gave him my first time. He's basically a liar, toying with my feelings. Now I just want to find an honest guy to marry and settle down with peacefully.
When you were younger, you couldn't even find a guy who checked all your boxes and was willing to marry you. Now, after all this tossing and turning, you're over 30, yet you're still stuck on that same old list of demands. If anything, your standards are even higher. You don't have the tiniest bit of self-reflection or ability to learn from this. You're still chasing feelings, still demanding perfection, still playing that prince falls for the princess fantasy. Tell me, how could you possibly find someone like that? Princes aren't that easy to come by, and you're no princess either. With how willful you are, no one can help you. That guy from before, the one with a house, a car, money, an only child in the system who was willing to pamper you, he was pretty solid. His parents were well off too, perfectly capable of looking after themselves without you worrying about a thing. The only downside? Maybe he was a bit short. But what's the big deal about being a little short? A high-quality, honest guy like that isn't something you just stumble upon.
护士啊，是坚决不能要的。
Nurses are absolutely out of the question. This is exactly what a guy from Luoyang told me. Originally, he saw this girl's photo and her basic information, and he felt quite satisfied with everything. So he was planning to arrange a meeting. He asked very specific questions, you see. He said, she filled in medical worker. What exactly does that mean? I told him she's a nurse. As soon as he heard that, he immediately said to me, forget it. Nurses are absolutely not okay. I found it really strange. I said, this girl is a nurse in a top-tier hospital. Her job is very stable. Her education and income are both decent. If someone in the family gets sick, she can also take care of them. So why was this Luoyang guy so against it? What do you all think could be the reason behind this?
我81年的43岁
I was born in 1981. I'm 43 years old, and a month after the new year, I'll turn 44. I'm not married, and I don't have any kids. There are only a dozen or so days left until the new year. How do all of you who are single plan to spend it? Do you spend it alone or with your family? What's the thing you dread facing the most? What's different about me compared to everyone else is that I have a great relationship with my family, so I don't really have anything to be afraid of. After all, at this age, I feel happy every day, and being with my parents makes me feel quite content. But I also feel very lonely. I mean, I'm almost 44 and still not married. I live with anxiety every day, wondering if I'm destined to grow old alone. For those of you born in the 80s who aren't married, how are you all spending this spring festival?
作为一个所谓的优质的大龄剩女
As a so-called high-quality older single woman, I'm a 90s kid, 32 years old, unmarried and childless. Yesterday I went to check out the matchmaking corner. It was packed with people, bustling and crowded. After walking around for a bit, I realized that, sure enough, I no longer have any market value. Most of the people looking for partners at the matchmaking corner are those with stable government jobs, civil servants or people working within the system. Relatively speaking, the more outstanding men and women are all out there trying their luck. So, in terms of the market, I basically have no appeal anymore. In the past, I might have said, I have a master's degree, so marrying someone with a high-quality job shouldn't be an issue, right? But now, these people not only have decent educations but also secure government positions. All of a sudden, that sense of defeat hit me hard. To be honest, I've always thought my standards weren't that high. But my parents think my expectations are a bit excessive. Back when I was in my 20s, I wanted someone good-looking, tall, emotionally intelligent, with a solid education, a stable income, and well, a house and a car. But now that I'm in my 30s, my standards have naturally dropped a bit. At least when it comes to the house and car, I've loosened up a lot. After all, I'm financially independent myself. Even after lowering some of my requirements, though, I still find it hard to meet someone. I don't even know how low I need to set my standards to actually find someone. My current requirements are like this. Height. I don't care anymore. Education. Still want some standards there. Looks. I'm not picky about that either. But I'd like someone stable. A steady job, an income of around 10,000 yuan a month. Give or take a little, doesn't matter. As long as we can get along and have good conversations. So, sisters, take my advice seriously. Before you hit 30, during the best phase of your life, lock down this whole marriage thing. I feel like in your 20s, you actually have a decent shot at snagging some high-quality guys. But after 30, you'll notice that the people who match your requirements might not exactly be fully functional. How do I put this? They might have some degree of erectile dysfunction. And if you want someone normal, they might not meet your other standards. After all, men in their 30s are past their prime energy years.
The video is coming to an end, and if you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. I'll keep updating with content you love, and your support is my biggest motivation to keep going. Also, feel free to leave any suggestions in the comments. I'll be picking some of your feedback from there, and those selected will get a mysterious reward from me.